Hello and welcome to the studio. Thank you very much for joining me here today in sunny Wales. Yes, the sun's out. So this is where I paint away the stress of everyday life. Now, the other week I was walking my little dog down the local park and I come across a couple of park benches. One's had snowdrops, one had sunflowers, and I thought I'd do an inspired painting today with the sunflowers. The snowdrop painting is in the iCards there. If this is the first time you've popped along and watched one of my videos, please take the time to subscribe. It's free. There's no terms and conditions. It's just free to watch. And give me a thumbs up, send me a comment. Don't forget to click the notification bell, otherwise you'll miss every upload I do, which is normally on a Monday at 7:30 Greenwich Mean Time. But without further ado, stop the waffle. Let's have a look at the palette and see what colours we're using today. So yes, as I said, if it's the first time you've watched the video, please subscribe because it doesn't cost nothing. It's completely free, and there's nothing to worry about there whatsoever. So I got a little bit of retarder in that one. That's you can pop along to my website www.clive5art.co.uk. There's a little shop in there which I make my own products, and there's some medium mix, which is a blend of resins and things, because I don't like using water to thin my paints down. There are videos explaining why. I'm not going into that today. So as I put a little bit of water into my brush cleaning station, as you can see up on the screen, I'm inspired to do a sunflower painting today from a park bench. I did a snowdrop one last week. So I was thinking to build a landscape up around these sunflowers. So right, let's go for it. Without further ado, let's stop talking. I'm just going to get a bit of burnt umber because I want to just draw a quick line just across the bottom of my painting medium there. Now this is a piece of cardboard that I normally use for YouTube. The simple reason is because I paint so many paintings, and a lot of them just get dispersed and thrown up, painted over, and yes, we're not going into that. But it's just a square. It's a 12-inch by 12-inch square, and there's a good thing about cardboard. You can cut it into any shape you want. That's another reason I like using it. It really is. So I thought today I'm just going to get some yellow, and I'm just going to put in some. Let's add a little bit of, you could see how transparent that is. That means it's not opaque. So to make a yellow slightly opaque, if you haven't got an opaque yellow, just add a small amount of white to it, and you can see it will make a big difference. So if you've got a problem with a paint being slightly transparent, just add a little bit of white or whatever colour you want to it to make it a little bit more opaque. So and I'm not worried about the background showing through. I like that. What have I used on there? It's like a red ochre, and I quite like that warmth coming through. I'll explain why I like the warmth in a second. I'm just going to get a bit more white. And if I sound a bit croaky today, it's because I've got a sore throat. Yes, I woke up this morning and I had a really bad throat. And I thought, oh, that's not good. So first thing I did was grab a PCR test, and I did a COVID test on myself this morning. And the good thing is I'm okay. So I've not got COVID, I just got a sore throat. And the reason I got some PCR tests is my wife works in a school, so she got to test herself regular. It's always good to know, isn't it? I think so. Always good to know. Protecting others as well as ourselves is important. So I'm just adding a bit of yellow and red together to make a lovely orange, because I want to warm this up a bit more. I want to warm this up because we're doing a sky, and I thought it would be a nice warm sky. There we are, just adding a bit more yellow and red together to make that orange. If it does go a little bit of pink, because it might go a little bit pinky. It might go a little bit pinky because of the white. Well, that's fine, because that's cool. We can live with that. But I want this to look like a nice warm summer sky. And as I come up, I'm just going to warm that up a bit more, and maybe get a bit more white. Just maybe get a bit more white into the sky like this. Just blend it in very lightly, very lightly. You're hardly touching the surface of the painting with my brush. I'm just lifting the pressure off. If you press too hard like that, you'll get these little brush strokes. But if you just lift and just use the very tips of the brush, you'll find that the paint will run smooth. Now, one of the things I get asked a lot about is how can you stop your paints from drying, Clive? Because mine always seem to dry very fast. Now, the key to stopping the paints from drying is two things: a wet palette, which is some tissue paper and some baking paper or parchment paper, or greaseproof paper on top. So you put your paints on that. The other key is a little mister bottle like this, and you need a fine mist bottle. Just every so often, just mist the top of your paints like that, and that stops the skin from forming, because acrylics form skin, and they start to go tacky. The other thing I don't recommend you do is use a plate. Some people use ceramic plates and things, and what that does is just encourages the paint to dry out faster. So, you know, if you want to use a plate, then be just mindful that the paints will dry pretty rapid, and if you don't want them to do that, then obviously don't use the plate. Otherwise you'd be in serious trouble, and you wonder why your paints are drying, and they get tacky. They get like a stickiness to them. They get like a stickiness to them. I'm just brushing that in. Very lightly going across the whole painting like that. Now, down here, it's starting to dry because that was the first application of paint that I did. And if you pull your brush across like that, you'll feel it scagging a bit. So don't go down there. It's drying. Acrylics dry between 12 and 15 minutes, depending on the atmosphere. It's true. So, you know, be very mindful. Add in a little bit of blue now to the red and orange. I don't want too much. I don't want the yellow to interact with it, because what's going to happen is, if I do that, it's going to go green. So I'm just going to lighten that up a little bit. Just lighten that up a little bit, and I'm just going to put a bit of that into the sky now, like that. Now the other thing you can do is get a misty bottle and just mist down the painting like that. But if you do that, get a nice soft brush and just brush that over like that. There we go. Now, if you notice, there's a couple of little spots appeared there, because when I sprayed the water on that, this is the other thing I wanted to show you. When I sprayed the water on that, what it's done, started to lift the paint off. Because it's already started to dry. So when you're using a mister bottle, make sure you just mist down the section that you want, which is wet. Otherwise you're going to get into serious trouble, and that's not what you want. You don't want to get into trouble. You want to use the acrylics to its advantage. So when I'm painting like this, I like to show you different ways, and obviously there's no point me telling you what to do. You need to see what to do. So sometimes I make mistakes just to show you what can go wrong. And that's the only way to learn sometimes. The only way to learn sometimes is to make a mistake. That's okay, we can recover that anyway. That's not a problem. So we get in some more white into the sky now. This is a little bit more tacky, so I've got to be aware and mindful that it's going to drag a little bit. So be very, very careful when you're going back onto a part of the painting that's wet, and a dry, sorry, part of the painting that's dry, because it will scag. And what I've learnt a lot about acrylics is basically doing YouTube videos, because I got to work within a certain time scale, and it's forced me to work with acrylics in a way that I got to keep painting, and that on its own has basically worked wonders for me, because it's just brought that the ability to manipulate the acrylics in the way I want them to, That makes any sense. Anyway, we're going to put some mountains in now, just like this, very loosely, because I want this painting to be a loose effect rather than a little bit of black. Don't like using too much black. You can use a little bit of black sometimes, but be very careful. Black is it can make it look very nasty, really. So just be careful when you're using black. Use it sparingly. That's the word. Is the word sparingly. So I'm just putting a couple of mountain shapes in, just like this. Just allow the brush to make the shapes it needs to. Don't think too much about it. There we go. Let's get a little bit of yellow now. Just on the brush. Because I'm going to put some light into these mountains. Just like that. Let's get a little bit of, I want a darker purple now. So it's red. If you're wondering, it's a cadmium red, which is a mid red, and it's a processed blue. That is. So I'm just gonna flick in a little bit of red like that. There you go. Get us some of this darker colour. Just put that into the top of the sky. Just like that. A little bit of moisture on the brush, a little bit of retarder, just to get the it gets a flow as well, but also you will find that it retards your paint, stops it from drying so quick. So we'll put a bit of dark in the sky just to give it a bit of depth, and we can get some of this colour. Or maybe just put in just a couple of cloud shapes, just like that. There you go. Digging around for any old brush really, and just damp the brush. It was taking the moisture off the edge of the brush, and I'm just going to soften in the bottoms of these clouds, just like that. So we don't want any rough edges, we just want to soften them, make them look a bit wispy. There we go. There we are. Now you could put a sun in there. You could put a sun there, or you could make this as it's just turning twilight, and you could put some little stars up there or something like that. But you know, use your imagination. Use your imagination. I'm just going with the flow today. So I want to get a bit of blue now. I want to put a bit of blue in, just down there. Blue and orange go really well together because they're complements. So we need to put a bit of blue in like that, and then we'll get some yellow, flick that in as well. So we've got a bit of green, so blue and yellow make green. Now for something really radical, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some yellow, a little bit of blue to make that green. And then I'm just going to paint this just like that. all green. Bit of bold blue. I'll get a little bit more dark on some darker areas. Just down there, maybe a touch of burnt umber. Just to darken it up. Because as we come forward, we just want to come slightly darker. It doesn't look like much now at the moment, but it will. It will. Now, one of my favourite things to do is what I'm going to do after I've done this, but I need to dry this off first. Make sure that is really, really dry. I'm hoping it's dry enough, but because what I've got to do now is get some of my medium mix. Oh, I need to wash my brush. There we go. If you want to know your brush is clean, just go into some clear water just to make sure there's nothing coming out of it. Okay, so get some medium mix and some yellow. Now I can do this with my medium mix because it won't underbind the paint because there's resins in there. And I'm just going to go slightly over the sky, a couple of mountains, with a glaze or a wash. Of colour. That's not dried enough there, look. So we'll just repair that. There you go. Just getting a bit of my purple mix just to repair that. And that's what happens when you don't dry your painting enough. So be very careful when you're doing this. Be very, very careful. The similar effect is on, I think it's this painting here. Let me show you, because this is a painting I'm in process of doing. You can see similar type of effect, very basic blotches of colour, but it is building up into a nice painting. And once I finish painting that, I'm going to repaint it into a smaller size and then take you through the process. And that's what I tend to do. That's what I tend to do. So, last week's painting, there it is, last week's painting. So I'm going to just turn that around. I'm going to get my little toothbrush. I think I did the same thing on this painting. I'm just going to go into some yellow. Use the back of that just to protect. Get a little bit of paint. Where are we? A little bit of paint. Sunflowers in the distance are so small you can't see them, but you can just see a little bit of colour. There we go. This creates distance. Ta-da! So we got some sunflowers in the distance there. Amazing what you can do with a paintbrush and a toothbrush. Now we could sit here for ages because we need to make some bigger ones now. We could sit here for ages and do little blobs of paint like this, which could be fun if you've got the time, or you could get some cotton buds and just randomly put in some. Maybe that's not going to work so well. Let's chuck that in the bin. Cotton bud. And if you look very closely, you'll see it's leaving a center piece. So it looks like there's sunflowers there. So we need to put in some sunflowers around the painting like that. There we go. Chuck that in a bin. Now we get another brush. This is just I don't even know what number. It's a number 8. If you're interested, it's a number 8 detail brush. And now I'm just gonna put some bigger circles in like this. Just blotch it on. Just blotch them on, look. There's a massive, lovely sunflowers there. Just a massive sunflowers. Wow. What a wonderful field of flowers. You see them growing. They grow all right. Now, we need to get another brush, another detail brush. Is that going to be big enough, I ask myself. And get a bit of burnt umber. And now we need to, here and there, just drop in a bit of the head of the flower. And then you can see them starting to become what we intend them to be, which is sunflowers. And don't forget, as I've said many times in the past, you only look at a painting from a distance, a minimum of 6 foot. And if you're looking at these from a distance, you will see that they are sunflowers. But if you go really close, you just see the blobs of paint. And it's all about illusion, art. All about illusion. Unless you're doing something like photorealism or something like that. Most artwork is just illusions. There you go. And that's why I like art, basically. So I need a big brush. I need a big brush. Have I got a big brush? Dumpty 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 dum dumpty dumpty dum dum. Right, I think this is going to work. And the same principle. This is a 14 detail brush. I haven't used this detail brush for years. And now I'm going to add a little bit of white, I think. I don't want to mix it all together. I want a little bit of yellow and white together. Same principle. Just like that. Just a massive, wonderful sunflowers. You get the idea. Just enjoy the painting, and people are going to go, wow, that must have taken you hours. Hours. You know, I tell you, I was there best part of a week painting this painting. I was there best part of a week. Dear me, how much is that? Oh, give me 100 quid, $100 is fine. You sure? Yes. You sure? I should have paid you more. Don't you love it when people say that? Oh, I thought it was going to be more than that. So you put a price on something then, and you think, well, the last one I sold, they said they would have paid more. So you up your price, and you put a price on there now, $75, and they go, how much? How much? That's life. You can't please everybody. You can't please everybody. Only please some people some of the time. Most people, most of the time. And that's what you've got to do. Don't forget to just blotch this on. Just like that. You've got a bit more time than me. Please take your time. I tend to rush it. I'm just showing you an idea, a technique. What you do with it is entirely up to you. If you wanted to get some... where's my brush gone? If you wanted to get some green, you know, and just put a few leaves in here and there maybe, you can do that. But I tend not to do that. We've got to put our little birds in. There you go. Because they become a staple in my paintings. And there is a field of sunflowers inspired by the park bench with my little walk when I went with Molly around my local park. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please, please, please click a subscribe button. I don't get nothing from that except exposure to YouTube, and my channel will continue to grow. If you want to support me financially, then just watch the adverts. That's all you need to do. You don't have to do nothing except watch the adverts. If you want to leave a comment, please do. If you want to give me a thumbs up, please do. If you click your notification bells, you get notified that every week when I upload a video, or every time I upload a video. But from now until then, please have a go at this. Use the techniques. Try not to do it in the same time as me. Just enjoy the painting process. If it takes you 4 hours, that's how long it takes. So have a bit of fun. I'll see you next time.